have a package from Evike.com. Yes, the lighting looks like I'm in some kind of Al-Qaeda torture basement, because I am. There's a kitten dearly holding on for its life in here. Let's open her up. This is the CYMA Sport M4 Carbine, nearly all plastic AEG that costs around $100. This is the cheapest semi-quality M4 style AEG I could find on Evike that in some ways oddly outperforms the godly combat machine. Just to clarify, this isn't a review. I purchased this rifle with my own money, so there isn't any financially influenced bias within this video. Although I love CYMA's products, nearly all of them need a little bit of work to function well. If there are any problems with this gun, I'm going to get into how to fix it and also how to upgrade it lightly.
On that note, the only real problems I could notice with this rifle were a weird problem with the trigger/selector system. When on semi-light trigger pulls would go to full auto, which is probably due to a production limit, and I'll be able to fix it later in the video. Additionally, the only other problem was just slight magazine wobble, which I fixed with a smidgen of Velcro. For a sub/above $100 gun, depending on when you get it, it performs pretty damn well. I realize that I'm juxtaposing myself by making this a mini review. Anyways.
I'd say that no matter how much you play Airsoft, we all have downtime between playing, where we just sit in our rooms looking at our rifles and daydreaming about future games. I used to be just like you, except I've now learned how to work on and upgrade my Airsoft guns, which has put a lot more Airsoft related things on my plate, instead of just window shopping and scheduling with my friends when we're going to go play next. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can turn a suboptimal AEG like this into a performance machine for less than $10. One comparable to any mid-range AEG on the market, with the exception of any Ares product, because no matter how big the price tag is on those guns, they always suck. Please never buy Ares. Oh, and I'm gonna play with the completed product. I'm not just a chair softer.
Let's start with the easiest upgrade, the very best place to start, increasing the accuracy of your gun. So to those that don't know what this thingy does, I'll explain. Side note, but it being a wheel type model for something almost $100 is amazing. For quick reference, this is usually what a budget hop-up unit looks like, and these are awful. This is what's called a hop-up unit. No, not that hop-up. A hop-up is what applies backspin to your BB, which allows the BB to actually go past the average distance an American walks in a day. The wheel allows you to adjust the pressure that a small nub applies on a rubber tube to give the said BB more or less backspin for an optimized flight path based on BB weight. Basically, a hop-up makes a BB go straighter. I get that's a lot of info and it's not really explained well, but I promise that it will all make sense. Start by screwing and gently punching this pin out of the body, then forcefully but also kind of carefully pull the upper receiver off. Ugh, good lord. Exposing your hop-up and barrel assembly, and a whole lot of lipstick as thread lock. Take this clip off, rotate the unit to where the side faces downward so that you don't lose the nub, and pull the barrel opposite the unit. Additionally, remove this thing, aka the bucking from the barrel. Just for a fun fact, a cheap way to increase accuracy is replacing the bucking. I'd recommend a maple leaf bucking for M4 style AEGs, although buckings aren't a one-size-fits-all upgrade. Just further research on this will assist you. Remember this weird long pole thing that looks like something you'd be probed with? This is for cleaning and jamming, but more often than not, just cleaning. You may not have to do this, but just look down the barrel, the isolated barrel that is, don't look at it while it's in your gun, to examine for dust or gradu. If you see any, first give the cleaning end of the rod a tug as they can fall off in the middle of your barrel mid-cleaning. Then thread some low friction material, I'm using this blue paper towel, and push whilst twisting the rod entirely through the barrel to clean out residue. I wonder what happens if I put it in max. Yep, that's what happens, okay. On to reassembly. Now, I'm a perfectionist when it comes to just assembly and cleaning in general with AEGs. I like them to be perfectly clean. So I've disassembled the entirety of this hop unit to clean the thread lock off of all the parts. That is just from what the bucking was sitting on. That's just shit. That is literally shit. If you were to clean or lubricate any part though, I would like you to lubricate the bucking, which I would recommend for ease of reassembly. Lightly go over its surfaces with silicone oil, but not too much, as the oil could get into your barrel and ruin its polish, by extension your accuracy. Reassemble the unit and keep in mind that this clip seats properly, otherwise your barrel will rotate and you will lose accuracy. Then test your results. Before I go on, I have to report a problem. When I was filming this clip here, a problem occurred with the amount of power being taken out of the gun. From what I could tell, I assembled it wrong, and the nozzle was clipping the bucking and lightly folding it, which was giving me jams and a very low FPS. This is probably due to the bucking's very soft and malleable in comparison to something harder and rougher, so just more of a reason to buy a better bucking. I'd recommend reassembling the gun just like this, hop up first instead of hop up and receiver. On all of my replicas, I usually place a small O-ring right here to maximize air seal. However, this model came with an O-ring, which was really shocking to me. I'm really just impressed with what CYMA is doing with their newer products, especially their dirt cheap ones. Next, the gearbox. Prior to any of the processes I detail later in this section, after opening your gearbox, please remove all the parts and clean it. Don't put it in boiling water, it doesn't remove grease. I tried it, it doesn't work. I'd recommend using a toothbrush and either brake cleaner or silicone grease and paper towels to rid the gearbox of what looks like the contents of a portable toilet. There are disassembly videos on this type of replica. If you want, I'll link them in the description. However, I don't plan on showing you how to disassemble this replica. Meet your gearbox, and while it may seem frightening to indulge upon, I promise that by learning about this, it will in turn make you a far more advanced airsofter. To disassemble, start by taking the screws out. Duh. Upon removing the last screw, I like to apply pressure to the gearbox to keep it closed. Before splitting the shell, insert a screwdriver into the rear and apply pressure downward, holding it firmly. By doing this, it assures that the spring, a part I'll explain the purpose of in a second, won't burst out of the gun upon separation of the shell's halves, spreading your gearbox parts across your room like butter. Let's start with the gears. Your motor, the thing that sits in the grip, contacts this gear, otherwise known as the bevel gear, which in turn contacts the spur gear, which contacts and rotates the sector gear. Sector gear uses its sector of teeth here to reciprocate the piston by its corresponding teeth, pulling backward and releasing the piston as the mainspring forces compressed air through the nozzle, propelling your BB. Additionally synchronized with your gear's rotation is the reciprocation of the aforementioned nozzle, due to the tappet plate. This small nub on the sector gear pulls back the tappet plate, which in turn loads a BB before the tappet plate spring pushes and seals the nozzle into the bucking and puts the BB into battery before being propelled by air. I know it's a lot, and if you don't get it, here's a CGI infographic of a gearbox cycling to hopefully make it easier for you to understand. Enough with the nerd shit though, let's get to making results. Ever wonder why your gun, and especially this one, sound like a bag of nails when firing? This is most likely due to too much incorrect gear contact, or when a gear surfaces, not its teeth, create too much friction upon one another or the gearbox shell itself. The solution to this problem is
shimming.
Gear shimming. Shimming, in the context of airsoft, is where you place small washers onto the gear axles to allow them to sit within a perfect ratio of each other. I won't do a tutorial on shimming, as there are a million of those on the internet. However, I will be linking tutorial videos in the description. Remember that the idea of shimming is to create less friction, so keep in mind not to use too many shims and make vertical axle movement non-existent. Oh, and make sure your motor head, aka the pinion, is sitting so that the bottom of the head is flush with the bottom of the bevel. This is how you find the perfect motor height. On a side note, a cool tip for increased fire rate and semi-cycle speed is short stroking your gears. Short stroking is the removal of teeth off the release area of the sector gear, as this releases the piston faster, however resulting in a loss of FPS. Speaking of FPS, let's get to the compression set. To elaborate on what feet per second is and its significance as to airsoft guns, the feet per second of a gun determines how far a gun can push a BB. Guns with a higher FPS are intended to shoot heavier BBs a farther distance, as heavier BBs are less likely to get fiddled around with by the wind. You typically see high FPS and DMR builds that have range in mind. Often your FPS is determined by the strength of your mainspring, but FPS isn't only determined by the spring. To maximize your FPS and consistency, you want a good air seal, which is where the compression parts come in. Consistency is how big, or in this case, low, the window of FPS per shot is. This is important as having a small window of difference between each shot's FPS means that each shot will go a similar amount of distance. For example, one of your shots goes 20 feet less than the previous. To test air seal, do this. If there is so much resistance to your piston plunging forward that you can't physically push your piston halfway through the cylinder, then you have good air seal. Additionally, test the nozzle all the way to the top of the cylinder head, as this imitates how the nozzle sits when the gun fires. The air seal when tested like this shouldn't be that great, so to improve this, look into nozzles containing more than one O-ring. However, if your piston most likely runs through the cylinder with no resistance, you have poor air seal. An easy fix to this is stretching your O-ring. Take your O-ring off your piston head and wrap it around your cylinder, but thoroughly rinse each part so that no flammable grease remains. Then, while masked to not inhale toxic fumes, use a heat gun or a lighter and blast the O-ring until it's hot to the touch on all sides. I'd recommend doing this before shimming and leaving it to sit and cool on the cylinder while you take time to shim. That usually results in a wider stretch of the O-ring. Once cooled, reinsert the O-ring onto the cylinder head and repeat the air seal inspection process. If there still is a determinable leak by the process, the problem may additionally be your cylinder head. If you have it handy, thinly wrap the surface of your cylinder head with a Teflon tape and reinsert the head onto the cylinder. If you have the money, invest in a double O-ring model by Rocket, as these have worked perfectly for all my builds, and Teflon tape over time wears down significantly. Finishing up on the upper half, given that this gun shoots around 370 FPS with a .25, this can indicate high stress on the gearbox. While this gun has a plastic spring guide, which would snap prior to the front of the gearbox, I'd recommend you use your money to buy a metal one of these. The consistent slamming of the piston head to the front of the gearbox can crack the front of your gearbox, destroying the gun completely. To prolong your gearbox staying intact, as sadly gearbox cracks are inevitable, you can use the thin file to radius the gearbox shell. This is when you take the aforementioned file and on both sides of the shell, file away small holes so that the vibrations and force are better dispersed instead of concentrated and causing a higher chance of cracking. To do so, like I said, file away small holes on either side of the front end. Do this at an angle and not flush with the vertical cut of the cylinder cutout, as the vibrations are more effectively dispersed throughout the shell. Reinsert the compression pieces and quickly test how your sector gear meshes with your piston. This is a plastic tooth piston, so if there are any problems with the meshing of the two, the metal teeth of the gear will eat away at the plastic teeth, visually indicating where the problem is after light use, a reason why I prefer plastic tooth pistons. Two causes of wear are premature engagement, or PME, which is caused by the gear rotating faster than the spring returns the piston, causing wear in the center of the piston, as the gear picks up the piston before it fully completes the cycle. Another possibility to wear is poor angle of engagement, or AOE, which is when the pickup tooth of the gear engages the pickup tooth of the piston at a strange angle or contacts the teeth following the pickup tooth prior to contacting the pickup tooth when cycling. I'll additionally link video tutorials on how to fix these in the description. Finally, re-grease the parts of your gearbox. I personally use Super Lube multi-purpose synthetic grease for lining all parts, but be aware that silicone oil and silicone grease aren't the best for certain gearbox parts, as they dry too quickly or are too thin to thoroughly lubricate. Carefully place the half shell over the other half. Placing it face or rear first is dependent on you, although I recommend face first like this. Push all the bushings, or what the gears sit on, into the right spots, and push back on the nozzle in case of a fitment issue, as this resets the tappet plate and allows for less tension on the sector gear. Be sure that the gearbox shell before insertion of screws isn't bulging anywhere or closing improperly. Finally, hook up your motor and start recording before giving it a few test shots to ensure that everything is smooth sailing. If there is a problem, I'd first ask you to describe the problem in the comments section, and I'll try to diagnose it and assist you. If I'm no help, I kid you not, but go to Reddit and post the video of your gun asking for help. Most of Reddit is absolutely stupid, but I promise that some people in r/airsoft can help. In case your gun is too sluggish for your tastes, or you don't want to buy a new motor or gear set, as those are usually pretty expensive, buying a higher voltage battery like one that's labeled 9.6 volt will increase your trigger response and fire rate without extreme internal modification. Just note that higher voltage batteries can degrade your trigger contacts and wiring, so in case you want to run a higher voltage battery, either get a MOSFET, which is a circuit board that replaces your trigger contacts, or just YOLO that shit.
If all's good, put her back together and that's that. Aside from internal upgrades, I outfitted it with a new angular stock, a larger KAC licensed trigger guard, and I removed part of the sling plate for better ergonomics and sex appeal. Going forward, I may do more with this gun externally as I want to replicate one of these. The remaining half of this video isn't just to pad out runtime, but to serve as a physical reference of the upgrades I detailed in this video. I thank you for watching this video, and I wish you well in your future airsoft escapades. Now on with the gameplay.
Really quick, I forgot. I know I keep postponing the gameplay, but here's a quick side-by-side to show what the actual changes internally did to the gun. For those wondering, my home field is power-ops. If it looks familiar, here's why.
Leaving. Get off!
Yeah, we're live. Yep, I just got it. All right. They're already at barrels on right side.
Yeah, they're pushing left.
They're pushing left. Here, he's right on window. I got your other side.
Fuck, I picked off the dust! Okay. Oh, my bad.
I'm right here. Teammate friendly. Keep watching my back. Keep watching my back. Hello. One,
Oh, damn.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Damn, I was dancing to California Girl.
Yeah, I know. Can you do it?
Huh?
Can you do the?
Yeah. Where do I go?
Barrels that way.
Oh no, I'm gonna get hit. Fuck, I'm gonna get hurt.
Hit. Good shot. Copy. That was a gun hit. Car. Hit. Hey, could you cover my back? This window right here? Thank you.
Behind the car?
Here, yeah. Cover me. Here, can you cover me on the black pipe thing? I just hit that guy in the leg. Fuck him. Fuck. Hit.
I was watching this. That guy at the very end isn't calling hits. Do you just want to push up and this guy behind the standing orange barricade here? Close.
He's in the woods. He's in the woods. He's just a big black spot. Okay, I think it's good to move up.
Watch out, watch this window.
He's in the woods. He's in the woods. He's in the woods.
Watch out. Is he the one who's calling?
Yeah, he's not calling it.
Alright. Okay, there you go. Nice. Good night.
Call it, fucker!
Yeah, I'm hitting him like 20 times.
Yeah.
Just full auto.
Is he?
What?
Rat!
If you shoot him enough, they'll like.
He'll cower, but yeah.
I think I don't know if he went, but I saw him.
Black tube, black tube. Keep me covered in black tube. Keep me covered in black tube.
Got one. Yeah, still got left.
Here, okay.
Oh, damn. Let him.
Yeah, there's a dude,
Oh, hi there.
I'm begging you to mercy me, please, for the love of... You're on my team?
I mean, I'll still hit you if you want.
No.
You gave me the soft one.
Yeah.